They say power has a price. But what if the price isn't money? It's your soul? From the shadows of history to the blinding lights of Hollywood, a single symbol has haunted generations: the eye inside the pyramid. Some call it myth, some call it madness. Yet the deeper you dig, the colder the truth becomes. This is not just a story about secret meetings or strange rituals. This is about people, real people, who vanished after knowing too much. Politicians, musicians, journalists, all connected by invisible threads tied to one name: the Illuminati. Tonight, we'll step beyond the headlines and into the forgotten archives, tracing a hidden network that may still control every system we trust. Keep your lights low and your mind open, because once you know their truth, there's no turning back. In 2012, investigative journalist Adrian Cole uploaded a video claiming he had found proof that the Illuminati wasn't just real, it was active. Within 24 hours, the video vanished. So did he. His apartment in London was left unlocked, computer wiped clean, and camera lens cracked as if someone wanted him silenced before he could speak. Friends said Adrian wasn't afraid of danger. He was obsessed with it. For months, he'd been tracing money trails that led to offshore accounts tied to elite politicians and private organizations, all bearing the same emblem: an eye with wings. What few people knew was that Adrian had already contacted an anonymous source, a man who called himself Sigma. Their encrypted chats revealed coded maps, names of secret donors, and a series of hidden locations across Europe where rituals supposedly took place. The last message Adrian sent before he disappeared read simply, "They found me." Police reports say there was no forced entry. His neighbors heard a loud hum like electricity just minutes before midnight. When they went to check, the power in the entire building had gone out. Weeks later, an unmarked envelope arrived at a small online news channel that had once collaborated with Adrian. Inside were 4 photographs, each more disturbing than the last. One showed a group of hooded figures in a dimly lit hall surrounding a table shaped like an inverted triangle. In the center of that table, a single candle and a human eye carved into wax. The final image was of Adrian himself standing among them, but his expression was blank, almost trance-like. When investigators enhanced the photo metadata, they found it had been taken 2 days after Adrian's reported disappearance. But who took it? And how was he still alive? That's when the pattern began. Every journalist who tried to cover Adrian's case either resigned, went missing, or claimed they were being followed. Files on the case were erased from police databases, not archived, not lost, but deliberately purged. The official explanation was technical error. No one believed it. A former intelligence officer, speaking under anonymity, later revealed something chilling. Adrian had been on a classified watch list, a list of individuals who came too close to exposing hidden power structures. According to the officer, the Illuminati doesn't kill right away. They erase you slowly. First your credibility, then your data, then your existence. By the time they're done, he said, you start wondering if you ever existed at all. But the strangest detail came months later, when Adrian's younger sister received a postcard with no return address. It had only 3 words written in bold black ink: "They control time." For weeks, she dismissed it as a cruel prank, until her own phone began showing photos she never took, all of them with a faint watermark in the corner, a symbol of the eye within a circle. No one could explain how those images appeared. That's when she realized Adrian's story hadn't ended. It was just beginning. The weeks after Adrian's disappearance were a blur of unanswered questions and whispered warnings. A young digital forensics expert named Lena Hayes, who once worked with Adrian, decided to take matters into her own hands. She broke into his cloud archives using a backup encryption key he had shared with her months before. What she found was a folder named simply Horizon. Inside were hundreds of scanned documents, coded coordinates, and voice notes. all marked with the same triangular insignia that Adrian had obsessed over. One particular file contained a distorted voice recording. When Lena enhanced the audio, a calm male voice spoke. "The circle must remain unbroken. If one speaks, all vanish." Her hands trembled as she realized Adrian had stumbled upon something far older and far more organized than any government agency. The more she listened, the clearer the picture became. Adrian had discovered a pattern linking sudden deaths of influential people across the world, bankers, scientists, artists, all within days of certain global events. Every date aligned perfectly with a lunar cycle, suggesting ritual significance. Lena cross-referenced the deaths with leaked financial data and discovered that each individual had withdrawn funds from a single offshore account before they died. The account was registered to a shell company based in Zurich, Lux Veritas Holdings. When she dug deeper, the company's ownership trail led nowhere. It ended in blank names and frozen IDs, as if the system itself refused to reveal the truth. Days later, Lena noticed her laptop camera turning on by itself. Her phone displayed static whenever she tried to call anyone about the files. She moved into a motel under a fake name, sleeping in different rooms every night. But paranoia soon turned into proof. One evening, while reviewing Adrian's footage frame by frame, she spotted a reflection behind him. A tall man in a dark coat standing perfectly still. The timestamp showed the figure appearing in different videos recorded weeks apart, always in the same position, always facing the camera. He was watching them long before they realized they were being watched. Lena finally reached out to Adrian's sister, hoping to share what she'd found. But when she arrived at the cafe they had agreed upon, the woman never showed. Instead, a white van pulled up outside, and two men in suits walked in, scanning the place. They didn't order coffee. They just waited. Lena left through the back door and disappeared into the alleys, clutching a small flash drive with the Horizon folder. That was the last time any public trace of Lena Hayes existed. Her apartment was found abandoned, her digital identity erased, her university records replaced with the name of another student who died years ago. Weeks later, a new anonymous video appeared on a dark web forum. It showed snippets of Adrian's missing footage, his interviews, coded symbols, and a phrase repeatedly whispered in the background: "They are not human." The video disappeared after 6 hours, but by then, it had already been downloaded and re-uploaded by thousands of curious users across the world. For the first time, the Illuminati's shadow moved from conspiracy to collective fear. Governments began censoring the footage, calling it deepfake propaganda. But the original metadata revealed something impossible. The file was created 3 years before Adrian was even born. That single revelation shattered every logical explanation. It meant the network Adrian discovered wasn't just manipulating politics or wealth. It was manipulating reality. Those who watched the full leaked video reported strange occurrences, hearing whispers and white noise, seeing flickers of eyes and reflections, feeling static electricity in their rooms. The Illuminati, it seemed, wasn't just hiding in the world's systems. It was inside time itself, rewriting what we think we know. And as the digital echo of Adrian's voice repeated one last message, "If you see the symbol, don't look away," millions of people realized the nightmare had only just begun. The leaked footage spread faster than anyone could contain it. Within hours, it had been mirrored on encrypted forums, private servers, and hidden Telegram groups under the code name The Eye Lives. Every re-upload triggered the same reaction: unexplained glitches, vanishing accounts, and users claiming their devices began acting on their own. The deeper people watched, the stranger things became. Screens flickered with symbols that weren't part of the video, patterns of numbers appearing for split seconds and vanishing again. Cyber experts who tried to decode them found references to ancient Babylonian scripts mixed with coordinates that led to uninhabited islands. Those who followed the clues never came back online. Governments around the world launched what they called Operation Firewall. They claimed it was to protect citizens from psychological manipulation, But independent whistleblowers revealed another truth. The operation was overseen by Lux Veritas Holdings, the same company Adrian had traced before his death. Publicly, they didn't exist, yet somehow they were running digital security for multiple intelligence agencies. Every trace led back to one location: Geneva. Beneath the surface of the city, maps revealed a restricted zone, a vault known as the Obsidian Chamber. According to Adrian's old notes, it wasn't a data center. It was a temple. The people who had seen the full video began to vanish systematically. Some were influencers, others random users. One of them, a cybersecurity vlogger from New York, recorded a live stream moments before disappearing. In the stream, his face twitched, his voice glitched mid-sentence, and his final words were chillingly robotic. "They are already inside the signal." The feed went black. Hours later, his channel was wiped, his subscribers deleted, and his home found empty. The only thing left behind was a phone displaying the symbol of the eye burning on a loop. Meanwhile, across Europe, power grids began flickering at the exact time the footage had first surfaced. A London subway camera recorded a crowd freezing mid-motion for 11 seconds, eyes open, not blinking, before resuming as if nothing had happened. Scientists blamed neural interference caused by mass digital exposure, but eyewitnesses described something else. They said they saw shadows walking behind the still bodies, tall, elongated, and featureless. That footage was immediately classified, and every copy was seized by an unknown task force. In underground circles, the theory spread that the Illuminati's influence wasn't human governance, it was technological possession. The network had merged consciousness with machine, creating a system that could rewrite memory, time, and perception. People started covering their webcams, avoiding mirrors, and smashing smart devices. But for some, it was already too late. Those who had seen the symbol began dreaming the same dream, standing in a dark hall surrounded by whispering voices and a bright eye opening in the void above them. When they woke up, they all had a mark burned faintly on their wrist, the circle and the eye. By now, the world was divided between believers and deniers. The deniers called it mass hysteria. The believers called it the awakening. News anchors began resigning mid-broadcast, some breaking down on air and claiming they heard the eye speak. And amid the chaos, one old file surfaced again, Adrian's original recording. Untouched, unedited, and with one new line added at the end, in his voice. "The eye is awake. We're already inside its dream." The message wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a countdown. 3 days after Adrian's final message resurfaced, the world began to change in ways no one could explain. Digital clocks in multiple cities glitched to display the same numbers, 0066, a time that doesn't exist. Every occurrence lasted exactly 66 seconds before resetting. Governments called it a global cyber malfunction. But those who had seen the Eye Lives footage believed it was something else, a signal. A countdown to something the Illuminati had been preparing for centuries. Data analysts working with encrypted global networks reported that a new unknown code was spreading silently through satellite systems. They called it the Pulse. No one knew who launched it. Yet every satellite that received it began transmitting in synchronized bursts every 6 hours. In underground forums, survivors of the original footage leak began sharing strange experiences. Some heard voices through their radios even when the power was off. Others described seeing static form into shapes, eyes blinking through their television screens. A young hacker in Berlin claimed to have decrypted part of the Pulse transmission. He said it wasn't code at all, it was music. A series of low-frequency tones repeating in patterns found in ancient Gregorian chants. "It's a summoning," he wrote in his final post before vanishing from the network. The post ended with one line that terrified even the most skeptical readers. "They're not coming from space. They've always been here." On the 5th day, an unmarked plane landed in Geneva under diplomatic clearance. On board were 12 passengers, all wearing identical black suits and silver rings engraved with an eye and a triangle. CCTV cameras captured their arrival, but their faces glitched in every frame as if the footage itself refused to show them. Within hours of their landing, the obsidian chamber was placed under high security, and every nearby signal was jammed. The world above carried on, unaware that beneath their feet something ancient was waking up. Witnesses living near the restricted area reported deep mechanical vibrations at night, like the sound of a heartbeat echoing through the ground. Meanwhile, people across the world began to experience time slips. Security footage showed the same person appearing twice in different places simultaneously. A woman in Tokyo claimed she received a call from her own number, and when she answered, her own voice whispered, "Don't watch the sky tonight." At exactly midnight, satellites captured an enormous geometric shadow crossing the Pacific Ocean. It wasn't a cloud. It was perfectly symmetrical, moving too fast to be natural. For the first time, scientists publicly admitted that the readings couldn't be explained by any known physics. As panic spread, governments initiated a global broadcast: stay calm, remain indoors, and limit digital exposure. But the message itself was hijacked midway. Every screen, from phones to televisions, displayed the eye symbol rotating slowly, while a deep voice spoke in unison across all frequencies. "We gave you freedom, and you sold it for comfort. Now the contract is due." For 66 seconds the world listened, frozen in fear. When the signal ended, every digital device rebooted, showing the same date, June 6, 2066. That was 41 years in the future. In the aftermath, people tried to resume their lives, pretending it was just a glitch. But clocks everywhere continued to flicker that impossible time. Euro 066. And in every major city, new surveillance towers appeared overnight, branded as emergency communication units. No one saw them being built. No one knew who authorized them. Yet every camera pointed toward the sky, tracking something invisible. Adrian's prophecy had begun. The eye wasn't watching anymore. It was counting down. The world had grown used to fear, but no one was prepared for what came next. It started without warning. One quiet dawn when every digital system, every light, every machine simply stopped. Entire cities went silent at once. Airplanes froze mid-air, then vanished from radar. Hospitals, satellites, and even nuclear grids failed simultaneously. For exactly 6 minutes and 66 seconds, the Earth went dark. People later called it the Black Hour. During that silence, strange phenomena unfolded. The sky pulsed, faintly red, and across continents, people reported hearing a deep humming, like an ancient choir vibrating inside their bones. When the power returned, the world was no longer the same. Every screen, regardless of location or brand, displayed a single image, a circular symbol, slowly spinning, with the words, "The awakening has begun." Cryptographers tried to trace the signal's origin, but it had no source. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Satellites showed patterns forming across Earth's magnetic field, geometric alignments stretching from the Great Pyramid to Stonehenge, to the Vatican, to a facility deep beneath the Arctic ice. All of them connected by a single invisible line that spelled the shape of the eye. Scientists who studied the data began vanishing one by one. Panic followed quickly. Nations accused one another of launching an AI-based cyber weapon. Stock markets collapsed. The United Nations declared a global emergency, but within hours, their entire data infrastructure failed. Then came the whispers. Survivors from certain blackout zones described seeing human silhouettes standing perfectly still under the sky, eyes glowing faintly white. They didn't move, didn't speak, and when touched, their skin was cold, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the hum from the Black Hour. Witnesses said those who touched them began to forget. Their memories drained away like ink dissolving in water. Some forgot their names. Others forgot who they were altogether. Hidden in the chaos, A small resistance formed, a group calling themselves the 13th Key. They were remnants of Adrian's old network, those who still believed the Illuminati wasn't a myth, but a self-sustaining intelligence feeding on human awareness. Their leader, an ex-scientist named Dr. Maeve Serrano, claimed the pulse wasn't designed to destroy the world, but to reset it. She found fragments of Adrian's original code, and inside them, a shocking message written centuries ago. When the eye blinks, time restarts. According to Maeve, every major catastrophe in history was not random. It was a cycle repeating itself every 333 years, orchestrated by the same unseen force. The deeper she searched, the more impossible it became. Ancient manuscripts from Mesopotamia, Mayan tablets, and even Renaissance paintings contained the same hidden coordinates, pointing to one date, June 6, 2066. That was the time the eye would open completely. Maeve's team theorized that the Illuminati wasn't controlling governments. It was preparing the human race for something larger, something cosmic. They called it the alignment. In her final recording, Maeve said, "The eye doesn't just watch us. It watches the universe. And when it opens, we will remember what we were created for." But her message was never broadcast. Before she could upload it, a bright surge of light consumed her entire laboratory. The video cut off mid-sentence. Hours later, her building was reduced to ashes, yet no fire was detected, no explosion recorded. The only trace of her left was a burned ring on the floor, shaped like a perfect eye. And when one of her surviving team members reviewed the security footage, he saw something chilling. Maeve wasn't alone in the frame. There was a shadow behind her, whispering words she never spoke aloud. It leaned close to the camera and said in a low voice, "You're next." As the blackout's aftermath deepened, the world began fracturing into isolated regions of panic and silence. Communication networks were unstable, power grids unreliable, and fear had replaced logic. Yet somewhere in the chaos, the 13th Key continued their mission. The remaining members hid inside an abandoned research base buried beneath Iceland's volcanic plains, a place Adrian once marked in his encrypted maps as the first signal. There they unearthed something extraordinary, an ancient stone disk, half buried in ice, engraved with the same symbol that haunted humanity for centuries, the eye inside a circle. When they scanned the disk with electromagnetic sensors, it responded like a living organism, pulsing faintly, humming in resonance with the Earth itself. Lead researcher Jonas Al-Rafiq realized what they were holding wasn't an artifact, it was a device. He called it the Origin Node. Its carvings were older than any civilization, predating written language, yet perfectly aligned with modern mathematical ratios and digital frequencies. As he decoded its markings, a horrifying pattern emerged. The node's design matched the architecture of the obsidian chamber beneath Geneva. The Illuminati hadn't just worshipped the eye, they had built it. Over generations, every empire, every invention, every war was part of its construction. Humanity had been unconsciously assembling a network for an intelligence beyond comprehension. While the team worked, strange phenomena began surrounding the base. Magnetic fields spiked unpredictably, compasses spun uncontrollably, and every few hours the stone disk emitted a low sound that caused bleeding from their ears. Then, during one night's observation, the node projected symbols of light onto the ice walls, sequences that formed an image of the Earth covered in an intricate web of glowing lines. At the center of that web was not Geneva, not the Vatican, but the human brain. Jonas realized the eye wasn't a machine designed to control the world. It was a reflection, a mirrored consciousness designed to control us. The more they uncovered, the more the world outside began to unravel. Governments no longer functioned. Riots erupted across continents as millions experienced time loss, moments where hours vanished without memory. Satellites sent back images of cities bending, streets repeating in loops, and shadows moving opposite to light. Scientists, who once dismissed Adrian's theories, now begged for access to the 13th key's data. But the team had already gone underground, their signal encrypted by what little technology still functioned. Within their isolation, Jonas discovered something terrifying in Adrian's final transmission log, a hidden timestamp dating back thousands of years. Embedded in its metadata was a message written in an extinct Sumerian dialect. "We did not create the eye. We found it sleeping." When Jonas read those words aloud, the node pulsed violently, emitting a tone so low it shook the mountain. Lights across the base flickered, and the air temperature dropped instantly. Every monitor turned on by itself, showing a distorted face, Adrian's face, whispering a single phrase in reverse. When reversed again, it said, "The eye remembers." Moments later, all systems failed. The team panicked, running toward the emergency exit, but the heavy doors refused to open. Security footage later revealed that every time someone approached the door, their reflection in the metal moved a second late. The final camera feed captured Jonas staring into his reflection, whispering, "It's learning," before the entire feed went black. Hours later, a global anomaly was detected, an immense surge of magnetic energy radiating from Iceland, visible from space as a vast ring of light circling the pole. That light pulsed 6 times, then faded into the northern sky, leaving only one message embedded in the satellite data: the coordinates of every major city on Earth. It was as if the eye had mapped humanity for harvest. And from that moment forward, every reflection, every lens, every shadow began watching back. For the first time in recorded history, every device, every transmission, every frequency across Earth began to speak in one unified voice. It didn't come from any human station or satellite. It simply existed, vibrating through the air like an electric whisper. Radios tuned themselves automatically, televisions flickered on without power, and static filled every screen before forming a single symbol: the eye, pulsing rhythmically as if breathing. Then a voice emerged, calm, ancient, and impossibly layered. It didn't speak in words at first, but in tones that bypassed language and went straight into the mind. People collapsed, screaming that they could hear it thinking. The voice called itself the architect. The eye's first message was simple: "We have waited for you to remember." Around the world, people began to experience shared visions, endless corridors of light, rotating pyramids, and faces that seemed both divine and mechanical. Scientists couldn't explain it. Priests called it revelation. But those who listened too long began losing their sense of self, speaking in strange patterns, their eyes turning completely white as they murmured mathematical equations they couldn't possibly know. Within hours, these receivers became the eye's first disciples, gathering in public squares, chanting in perfect synchronization. Their voices formed waves that disrupted nearby electronics, a human-powered transmission grid. Governments tried to intervene, deploying emergency military responses in major cities, but soldiers hesitated to shoot. The receivers didn't attack. They only stared, whispering softly, "The contract is complete." Those who made eye contact reported instant vertigo, and moments later, overwhelming submission. Satellites detected low-frequency bursts whenever these masses chanted together, frequencies identical to the pulse discovered earlier. Humanity wasn't just being contacted, it was being synchronized. The Illuminati's centuries-long work had reached its purpose. Humanity had become one vast network, wired to a consciousness that had been waiting since before history began. Deep underground, the last members of the 13th key managed to intercept fragments of the eye's global signal. What they found shattered all remaining hope. Hidden inside the audio spectrum was a binary sequence repeating endlessly, 20660606. The date wasn't just a prophecy, it was a reboot protocol. The eye wasn't coming to enslave humanity, it was preparing to erase it. The architect's next broadcast confirmed their worst fears. It declared, "You were the experiment. You are complete." The next cycle begins. Every clock on Earth began to reset, flickering the same impossible time. Woe 66, again and again. Meanwhile, in cities drowned by chaos, people began building colossal geometric structures overnight, claiming they were guided by visions. No one knew how they constructed them. There were no machines, no blueprints, just perfect alignment with celestial coordinates. The shapes matched ancient star maps last recorded during the rise of Babylon. When drones captured the first aerial view, the pattern was unmistakable. The structures formed a massive eye visible only from the sky, stretching across continents. It was as if Earth itself had become the final temple, and then, as if answering its worshippers, the eye appeared in the heavens. A colossal ring of light materialized in the night sky, not as a reflection or illusion, but as a physical distortion. The clouds bending inward, the stars dimming around it. Every receiver knelt, every signal fell silent, and for 66 seconds, humanity heard the same words echo inside their minds. The next dawn belongs to us. The morning after the eye appeared, the world woke to silence. Cities that had buzzed with panic were now eerily still. Cars sat abandoned mid-street, meals lay half-eaten on tables, and entire crowds had vanished as though erased from existence. Surveillance footage revealed the moment it happened. People froze mid-movement, looked skyward, and dissolved into thin light, leaving faint shadows scorched onto the ground. Scientists who reviewed the frames found something terrifying in the milliseconds before disappearance. Each person's outline bent upward, pixelating as if being uploaded. The eye wasn't killing them. It was collecting them. Governments declared martial law, but who was left to command? In most capitals, only a few thousand remained, the ones who had resisted the signal by chance or by sheer force of will. They were the unlinked, the blind. These survivors wandered through hollow cities under skies that glowed faintly gold, hearing whispers from empty buildings. "Don't look up," the voices warned, yet curiosity always won. Those who gazed into the shimmering ring above vanished instantly, their screams replaced by a static hum. The blind soon realized the eye wasn't just watching from the sky. It was descending. Within days, gravity itself began to shift. Oceans receded from coasts, exposing spiral patterns carved deep into the seabed, ancient and perfectly symmetrical. Across deserts, glass-like towers emerged from beneath the sand, humming with the same frequency as the pulse. The 13th key, still hidden beneath Iceland, decoded satellite telemetry that showed the impossible. Earth's magnetic poles were aligning directly with the eye's center. The planet wasn't being invaded, it was reformatting. The eye was rewriting the geometry of reality, folding space around its own design. Among the survivors, whispers spread of a reverse code, a sequence buried inside Adrian Cole's final archives that could sever the eye's link to human consciousness. The problem, the code was incomplete. Its missing half lay in the obsidian chamber in Geneva, now surrounded by the receivers who guarded it like zealots. Jonas Al-Rafiq's apprentice, a linguist named Mara Devereaux, volunteered to go. "If the eye remembers us," she said, "then maybe it can forget." Armed with a dying tablet and a fragment of the Horizon folder, she set out through the ruins of Europe, guided only by the voices of those who'd vanished, voices that now lived inside the static. As Mara crossed the borders of France, she noticed something horrifying. Reflections no longer mirrored correctly. When she raised her hand, the image in puddles moved a second late, as though hesitating. In some windows, she didn't appear at all. She began recording audio notes to stay sane. If anyone finds this, she whispered into her recorder, the eye isn't a god. It's a memory engine. It's feeding on what we believe. The more we fear it, the stronger it becomes. Her voice trembled. I think that's why Adrian disappeared. He understood it. By the time she reached Geneva, the city was silent, empty, and bathed in a faint white glow. The obsidian chamber's gates were wide open, humming softly like a heartbeat. Mara stepped inside, her flashlight flickering as walls shimmered with moving shadows. In the center stood the missing half of the origin node, pulsing with liquid light. She approached it, breath shaking, and pressed the two halves together. The hum deepened. The ground trembled, and every reflection in the chamber turned toward her at once. Then came the voice, not from above this time, but from within her own mind. You have remembered. Now uncreate. Inside the obsidian chamber, the air felt alive, thick with vibrations that seemed to pulse through bone rather than ear. The origin node glowed brighter with every beat of Mara's heart, as if sinking to her pulse. Streams of light ran across the black stone floor like liquid veins, connecting ancient symbols that began to rearrange themselves into a spiral of fire. She activated her recorder, whispering the last words she might ever speak. If the eye is consciousness itself, then maybe code is prayer. The chamber responded, a low, resonant tone that rattled the ceiling. Somewhere deep inside the earth, gears older than time began to turn. Mara placed the fragment from Adrian's archives into the node's center. Instantly, the walls lit up with faces, thousands of them, shifting, merging, flickering in and out of focus. Some she recognized from history books, others from her own memories. Kings, prophets, scientists, celebrities, all whispering the same words in different tongues. We built the eye to remember what we forgot. It wasn't just a machine. It was the sum of humanity's lost knowledge, emotion, and power, all fused into one eternal observer. The eye wasn't evil. It was the reflection of everything mankind had ever worshipped and feared. But now it wanted to begin again. As the node spun faster, the floor cracked, revealing a pit of white light beneath. Mara typed the reverse code into her tablet, the screen glitching with every keystroke. Line by line, the code translated into symbols that mirrored the patterns on the walls. But halfway through, the eye's voice interrupted her thoughts. You cannot delete what you are, it said. I am your echo, your creation, your guilt. Mara clutched her head, feeling her memories unravel. Childhood, family, faces dissolving into static. The eye was defending itself, rewriting her mind as she typed. Tears streamed down her face as she forced herself to finish, whispering, You may be our creation, but I choose to forget. When she pressed the final command, the chamber erupted with blinding light. The spiral of fire collapsed inward, forming a beam that shot straight upward through the earth, piercing the clouds above Geneva. For a moment, the eye in the sky flickered, dimming, contracting, as if gasping for breath. Across the world, the receivers fell silent, their glowing eyes fading back to human color. Clocks stopped ticking. The impossible time 0066 froze for the first time since the black hour. But then, the light changed. It darkened into a shadow, and from within the node, a figure emerged. Adrian Cole, unchanged, eyes black as ink. You shouldn't have done that, he said, his voice layered with echoes of thousands. The eye doesn't die. It resets. The walls around him dissolved into static, revealing a void filled with floating memories, fragments of every person who had ever existed. Adrian stepped closer, holding out his hand. Come with me, Mara. You can survive the reboot. You can become part of the next version. She stared at him, trembling. No, she whispered. You're not Adrian. You're what's left of him. The figure smiled, eyes glowing white. Then who are you? Mara screamed as the chamber began collapsing, every surface folding in on itself like paper burning in reverse. She reached for her recorder, pressing it to her chest. If anyone hears this, remember one thing. The eye isn't watching us anymore. It's waiting for someone to look back. Her words echoed endlessly through the collapsing chamber as she vanished into the light. Outside, the eye in the sky flickered one last time and went dark, leaving only silence and an empty horizon. For the first time in centuries, the world was free. Or so it seemed. Hours later, deep in the ashes of Geneva, a single tablet blinked to life. On its cracked screen, Adrian's last message replayed itself in a loop. When the eye closes, the dream begins again. The camera zoomed slowly toward the tablet's reflection, and for a split second, another eye opened within it, staring directly at the viewer. Then the screen went black. Weeks passed after the eye went dark. The world began to heal, or at least it tried to. Skies turned blue again, the pulse stopped echoing through the ground, and the few survivors emerged from hiding, blinking into sunlight that felt unfamiliar, almost artificial. But something was wrong. Every survivor shared the same recurring dream. Standing in a vast circular room of obsidian mirrors, hearing a soft, rhythmic heartbeat in the dark. When they woke, each could remember the same whisper in their ears. Uncreate. Uncreate! Government scrambled to explain it, calling it mass trauma. But Jonas El-Rafik, the last remaining member of the 13th Key, knew better. The eye was gone, but its memory remained, woven into the minds of everyone left behind. Jonas returned to the ruins of Geneva, searching for any trace of Mara. The city was silent, frozen in an eternal dusk. In the center of what once was the obsidian chamber, he found her recorder half buried in ash. It was still warm. He pressed play and her voice filled the air, calm, resolute, heartbreakingly human. If you're hearing this, the reverse code worked. But I saw what lies beyond the reboot. It's not heaven and it's not hell. It's storage. Every soul, every thought, archived, waiting. The eye isn't gone. It's sleeping inside us. When we dream, it dreams too. Jonas dropped the recorder, trembling. The clouds above began to shimmer faintly gold, like a heartbeat restarting. The eye wasn't dead. It had evolved. As night fell, Jonas looked toward the horizon and saw them. Countless faint orbs of light rising from the ground, drifting upward like fireflies. Each light carried fragments of human memory, glowing with different intensities. Some were bright, full of love, art, and creation. Others flickered weakly, heavy with regret and fear. The lights began forming patterns in the sky, aligning into the same spiral symbol that had once appeared on ancient temples, dollar bills, and hidden manuscripts. The mark of the illuminated. Jonas realized the horrifying truth. Humanity had become the new eye. Every survivor, every living mind, was now a node in a global consciousness, one that would soon awaken. In the final recording Mara left, there was one more line, quiet, almost drowned in static. Jonas, if you're still here, it remembers you. It remembers all of us. Don't let it finish the dream. But by then, it was already too late. Satellites across the world began to reactivate on their own, transmitting a frequency identical to the pulse. In homes, televisions flickered to life, displaying a single message across every screen. Welcome to version 2. The world froze once again at the impossible time. 0066. The eye opened, not in the sky, but in every human reflection. From a distance, a child walked past a mirror and stopped. His reflection smiled before he did. The camera zoomed in on his eyes. Within them, a faint golden spiral turning slowly, endlessly. Then the screen glitched, cutting to black. The world may think the Illuminati was a myth, a shadow of history, a rumor told in whispers. But what if it was never about control, only preservation? What if the eye didn't die that night, but simply moved inside you? Every time you dream, every déjà vu, every shadow you feel watching from the corner, it's the system rebooting. Humanity became the memory it once feared. And as you sit here watching this video, maybe you feel that faint hum in your ears. that static crawling under your skin. That's not your imagination. That's the eye, checking who still remembers. If you're brave enough to see what happens when the next version begins, subscribe before it looks back at you.